Krishnaji, I was wondering if we could talk about the question of the educator, that is the teacher, both in the classroom and outside, and how he is able to educate, having some understanding of what the nature of education is, that is a total responsibility for the life of the student and for the life of the community, and for perhaps some understanding of the place of his specific instruction, his specific knowledge in the whole scheme of things, but having only a partial understanding of the depth of things, the reality of things. How is he to proceed to bring about a different kind of understanding in a student? That is an understanding that is not just of the subject, but deeper and beyond the subject,
yes.
A more global understanding.
Would you consider the relationship between the student and the educator? What is the relationship?
Well, so far as the subject is concerned, the teacher knows more about the subject than the student.
And so he informs
So he
him.
conveys a certain information. So that is
Fairly simple.
yes, that's fairly straightforward.
But what is more involved in this relationship? You're the teacher, and I happen to be your pupil, your student. What's our relationship? Apart from the subject and the information involved in the subject, what's our deeper relationship, if we have any at all?
I don't quite understand how you are using the word relationship in this context. And it's surely one relationship between the teacher is to instruct, and is there any relationship beyond that?
If that's all the relationship one has, which is generally what happens in ordinary schools,
Yes.
then it's very simple. You inform the students about mathematics or whatever subject you teach, and you go back home or go back to your room and forget about the whole thing. But we are not talking of such a superficial relationship. We are talking of much more a relationship where we are living in a community of teachers and students.
I think most teachers would say that they have a concern for the student, which goes beyond just instructing them in the subject. They have a concern with their well-being. With
I wonder if that is so. Take an ordinary school in England or in India or in America. Are they really concerned?
I think some of them are concerned, but it's very difficult if you have 30 students in your class and you see them 3 times a week. And where else do you see them? How do you have a relationship?
That's what I'm saying. If it's an ordinary school, there's a very, very little relationship.
But you might want to have some more relationship.
That's a different matter. If you want it, how do you set about it?
Well, you probably have to start. You probably have to start a school of your own eventually.
Yes.
Or join a school that was moving in that direction. One of the two.
Are you saying it's not possible in the system, the school system that we have just now, to have that kind of relationship?
I don't see the possibility there at all. Take even Winchester College or any of these public schools. What? What's the relationship?
Well, you would have thought that in a residential school where the teachers are living nearby and the student is there all the time, that they
Yes.
would be in a position to
No,
have more.
generally they have rules. regulations, you must not, and there it ends.
But surely we have to have rules.
Oh yes, of course we have to have rules. I'm not saying that. But we're talking of relationship between the educator and the student in ordinary public school or in a grammar school. It means very little.
But that seems also to be the source of a lot of the dissatisfaction with teachers these days who work in ordinary schools. There's some feeling that they would like to reach out more to the people they're working with, but they can't, just because of the physical circumstances.
That's what I'm saying. The system prevents it.
Yes. Or seems to prevent it anyway.
Would you say that is so? That's a fact.
I don't quite see how the system prevents a relationship. Surely it would be possible for a teacher to have a relationship with a student if he wanted to.
I wonder if it is possible in an ordinary school, in public school or an ordinary grammar school. Is that possible?
Well, let's take a teacher in an ordinary school.
Yeah. What does he do?
Well, he comes to school in the morning and he maybe goes to an assembly, or then he
whatever
goes...
yes.
And
there's the class subject.
Yes.
And he takes for 45 minutes or morning and afternoon or
Yes.
something like that. And he tells them. And there's the housemaster.
Yes.
And he passes them on to him. And there's the game master.
Well, what else?
And the prefects and, the whole system of flagging and all the rest of it. Where is the relationship possible there? Relationship in the sense we're talking of, in the sense feeling responsible for the student. Not only academically, but morally, socially, his behavior, his way of thinking and so on, concerned totally. It doesn't exist.
I mean, why not? Why not when they're eating meals or after school is done?
But it does, what we're saying it's possible, but it doesn't exist.
But it's possible.
Anything is possible.
Okay.
It can exist sometimes. I know some people, friends of mine who are teachers in an ordinary school, and they are already trying very, very hard to build up relationships with their students.
That's it.
And to some extent they're succeeding, but always they're limited by the school they're in.
That's what I'm saying. The system prevents it. The modern education is merely concerned giving information, giving certain amount of knowledge, and helping him to get a career. Right?
But
isn't that so? I mean, that's...
I think ambition comes into it at some stage.
Of course.
Because, however, in many schools, however well-meaning the teachers are, eventually they've been there for 3 or 4 years and they want to go on a bit further. They want to get a better job.
Of course.
So ambition comes into it. And that's
so, at what level are we talking about education? About the ordinary education that an average person receives? Or are we talking about having a dialogue about a school where both the educator and the student feel totally responsible?
Krishnamurti, we seem to be talking about education and we don't really have a very clear idea of what that means.
I think we have, don't we? First of all, they need academic training, discipline. Right?
Yes.
We all agree to that.
Yes, they need skills, they need...
And also we also want or desire or wish that they should have social conscious, socially be conscious of what is happening in the world, morally, in behavior, the way they talk, the way, that's what I consider education. Total
but attention is given to
being.
Attention is given to behavior and to the moral upbringing or whatever.
It's all discipline. You do this and don't do that.
I think there's a question comes in about being on the same level here, really.
Yes,
About about the way what you are saying is conveyed, but in the sense that you approach it from a position of not being higher or superior to the student, but rather you may point something out, or you try to, but without the implication of a psychological superiority.
That's right. And also, Saudi, isn't it a question here? The student comes conditioned, and the teacher or the educator is conditioned. Both are conditioned.
Both are conditioned, yes.
Conditioned to according to the culture and so on, so on, so on. And we are, as far as one observes, one is helping them to conform or fit into the wider or narrower conditioning. Would you say that?
Well, I'm not so sure that I would say that. I would say that, as most teachers would say, they are interested in the moral upbringing in a much wider aspect of whether they can do it is a different question.
And that's what the idea is, and the fact is different. I would like to be something, but the fact is I'm not.
And most teachers would say they're trying, but...
So, what are we discussing? That's what I would like to find out. Are we talking over together the average school, either public or grammar schools, or a school like this at Brockwood, where we are concerned with the total cultivation of man, of the student, and so ourselves? I don't know if I'm conveying this.
Well, we've all decided to come here rather than to teach at an ordinary school. So really, we have to talk about this school.
So we are talking about this school. Let's talk about that. Not the average, and the people who want to do this but can't, and so on, so on. So let's start from here, shall we? Is that it?
Yes, let's start.
Do we all agree?
Yes.
Yes.
What are we trying to do here? If we could talk frankly and openly, what are we trying to do?
I would say that we're trying to bring about some learning through understanding, which is not an understanding in a particular area, but rather understanding per se. If you could refer to some kind of universal understanding.
Would you explain that? I don't understand it. Would you explain?
Which is, well, generally knowledge is assimilated in fragments or in parts, mathematical part, physics, a language. This is what, we also do this here. The student learns 6 or 8
my
subjects.
question is, what are we trying to do here as a community, as a teacher and the relationship with the student, and the student with the community and with the teacher, together as a body of people? What is it we are trying to do?
Well, I'm trying to work round to it by saying this, that in a school, even in any school, it's necessary at some point to point things out to others. Well, that's part of one's responsibility, as I see it anyway. Now, the significant thing seems to me that you are able to, if you are able to point this thing out in such a way that it makes sense to the other person, that he sees the point of it, then that also becomes part of his own learning, and it's part of your learning as well, because you've learned how to convey it.
Have you answered my question?
That is what we're doing.
No, what is it we are trying to do? Have you answered my question?
I'm trying to answer the question. I've got it in myself, but I can't bring it
have
out.
some very different.
Yeah?
Well, we might not be able to get at.
No, can't we all, we have had the school, you have been here for a number of years, and so is he and all of us. What is it together we are trying to do?
Actually, part of what we're trying to do is actually live together rather than separately.
Actually, you are living together in the same house.
Yes, but I mean actually cooperate and work and all that living together involves, without necessarily avoiding each other.
Is that what you are doing here?
Certainly seems to be part of it.
That's what we're trying, it's a part of what we're trying to do.
Also, when you ask that question, what immediately comes to my mind is, I don't know how to express it except perception, to begin to learn how to look at things, because we don't know how to look at ourselves or to look at anything just clearly. We have thoughts or some sort of guidelines with which we look at things, to learn how to perceive things clearly.
And so what do you say? What is it we are doing here? Not only trying, actually doing. Trying becomes rather vague and rather indefinite. But what is actually we are doing?
We're looking at the way we live. We're looking at it in relationship and trying to understand how we are, what we are, and
I would say we're working for a common understanding, which is not a personal understanding, which is not an understanding of this person or that, but a common understanding.
It's very difficult to put into words.
You are leaving me rather vague about all this.
What would that mean? I mean,
Well, a common understanding.
I mean, it sounds nice. How do you work towards that? What?
So are we concerned, if I may ask, are we concerned not only the present activities of living, relationship, and academics, informing the students academically and all the rest of it, or also concerned what's going to happen to them in the future when they leave here? What is their life? Whether they're going to be absorbed into the whole mass of the average.
That relates to it.
So are we concerned? That's what I'm trying to get at. Not only the now, the now being a good relationship, helping them to understand not only mathematics, but understand the whole significance of life, and also be concerned with the future of their lives.
But surely the now is inextricably related to the future. Surely how you look at life now.
No, that's just it. How do they look at life now? How do we look at life now? How do we help the student or ourselves to understand the now? What's happening now?
I was on holiday last month with 2 students from this school, and there were 2 or 3 children who spent some time with us who went to ordinary local schools, and they couldn't understand the relationship which I had with these students. They kept on asking, won't he be cross if you don't do the work, or why don't you call him sir, and so on. And they sometimes just stood there watching us. They couldn't understand what was happening.
Let us see. But are we, that's what I want to get at, are we concerned not only with the actualities of present living, our relationship with each other, whether it is personal or whether it is objective, whether it is you are cultivating, whether we are cultivating the mind, the brain, the capacity to think objectively, sanely, and also the sense of affection, all that. And will that sustain them right through life? You follow what I'm saying? Or they'll be caught in these traps.
They may be caught after being here. That's, you know, that's,
I want to prevent that. If I have a son and a daughter, I send him here, I say, please help him not to be caught in these traps.
Well, of course, but and some are not caught, but some are also. I
want my children not to be caught in the trap, this rat race that goes on. Whether it's in India, here or in America, this perpetual struggle.
So surely we have to, the only way we can help them is to make sure that they develop a real understanding of what the struggle is.
Are we actually doing that? I'm just questioning it. I'm not saying you're not. Are we actually seeing that they have this quality of intelligence, which is not the intelligence of ideas and all that, but this intelligence that will help them to ward off danger, ward off, keep away from all the travail of man. You follow the... Are we doing that?
We're certainly trying, but we're not always succeeding.
Not with every student. Therefore, we are... Now let's come back down to earth again. Are we saying that this is the purpose or the intention of this place?
Yes.
Yes. Then how do we carry it out?
I don't think it will get carried out in an unfailing way. That is, in such a way as there will be no casualties, so to speak.
Yes.
That's not possible. So you have to.
But I'm saying, we understand the basis of the school. Now, how do we bring it about?
I think that's a good question we've all been asking ourselves.
Yeah,
we're attempting to do that, but we don't quite know.
I'm asking you,
that out.
What shall we do? I leave my daughter and my son here. And I haven't got any, but if I lived up here. And I say, please, sirs and ladies, it's your responsibility to see that these two are not thrown to the wolves, are not caught in the social machine, or become the mediocre, average, unintelligent citizen. I said, it's your responsibility. And what shall we do? We are together as a community of teachers and so on. What shall we do? That's what I want to get at. You are not answering my question.
Well, we can't help the student if we are mediocre and unintelligent ourselves.
Now, so will you wait till you become intelligent, not mediocre, and then become the teacher?
Well, we can't, because he's there already.
That's impossible. Huh? I mean, that would be like saying that's too stupid to say, well, I wait till I make myself all right and then come to teach. So our relationship then is, I am not totally stupid, conditioned, and the student is. So we both are on the same level. Right?
Yes, that's very important.
And that is really important. Except when you are giving information about mathematics, let's say, or history, or language and so on.
Psychologically on the same level.
So, psychologically we are on the same level. Now, how shall we help each other to be free of our mediocrity?
Can we stay with this, Krishnaji? Because this is a tremendous thing you are saying.
I know, I'm doing
that this. That we are psychologically on the same level as a student.
Absolutely, I feel that.
Yes.
Yes, I think it becomes difficult sometimes because when one's older, one feels sometimes that you have, in a sense, more experience.
About what?
Well, we might say...
Wait, no, my lady. Just look at it. Sex, drink, smoking, what?
Oh, there are other things as well. For instance...
What?
Well, you may, for instance, you may...
Climbing the mountains?
No, you may also have you may also have gone through the war. You may also have been a conscientious objector. You may have gone to prison
now
for
that's
right?
a different matter.
So you have stuck your neck out in some way, probably.
That's a different matter.
Right.
So I'm just saying, look, if we are on the same level with this student, how shall we begin to free ourselves from the results of which society and ourselves have imposed upon ourselves? That's the problem. No?
I'm not quite sure that we see the necessity for being on the same level, that we are on the same level as the student.
No, not necessarily. It's a fact. We, as a human being, one is conditioned. If you agree to that, then the student is conditioned by his father, by his mother, by the friends, by the society, and so on. Books he reads, the television, he's conditioned by that, all that. So the teacher is also. Not exactly, but they are both conditioned. Now how are we to help each other to, if I may use the word, uncondition it themselves?
Are all conditionings equal?
Huh?
Are all conditionings equal?
No.
Therefore, is it possible...
Very good question, so let's stick to it. Is there a common factor which is the actual conditioning? You follow?
Yes.
I mean, you, as an Englishman, you are conditioned in a certain way. And another, as a German, or as comes from India or doesn't matter, America. Time, the climate, the food, the language, the television, all those are religion, the superstitions, all that has made him what he is, and more. What is the common factor in all human beings who are conditioned? You follow what I mean? I know.
No, not.
Is it not simply more than the fact of conditioning itself, or different from the fact of conditioning itself?
You are an Englishman, and I happen to be born in India. What is the common factor in our conditioning? Language, is it?
Well, it could be.
Could be. That's why I want to eliminate. Is it climate?
Definitely not.
The food, not British. It's all through spring. Climate, food.
No.
Wait. Literature, television, the magazines. Watch, don't say no. And the upbringing, the tradition, being the British, and all the pride of that word, in that word. And another born in India, he's got the same pride, the same religious superstitions, only he's darker, probably not strong as you are, physically, malnourished, and so on and so on. What is the common factor between these two?
So you're saying only the form is different?
That's all.
Yeah.
I mean, they might be proud about different things, or they might hold different gods in.
Yeah, of course, but it's the same movement. So if we agree that the educator and the students are both conditioned, in their own way, and the central factor is to be free of this, to become human beings, not labels. I don't know if you can put it that way.
Yes, yes. So the movement you speak of is a psychological movement.
Obviously.
In which is common to all.
Oh.
I think we perhaps ought to pause over that for a minute.
Of course, what's common factor to an Englishman, to a German, Russian, or an Indian, or an American? Common factor is they all have this enormous sense of ambition, common factor of fear, common factor of pursuing pleasure, common factor of suffering, struggle, anxiety, grief, lack of love, and all that is the common factor between all of us.
So you're saying now that there's the educator and the student, and
are in the same boat.
they're exactly
the same thing.
But the expressions might be different.
Oh yes, I mean you might express it by going to church, and another might express it when you go up to his room crying. I don't know how, that's irrelevant how you, the factor is we all go through the same phenomena. Now, as an educator and as the student, that's the common factor, right? Or would you disagree there?
No, we seem to have...
No, don't easily agree. Because this may, if we both of us see that's the common, then we can do something together.
But why is this so important in education? So the fact that both of us may be afraid but of different things,
yes.
Why is that so
no,
important?
Because fear, whether it's the educator or in the student, what does it do? It cripples a human being. It dulls the mind. It creates havoc in one's life. No?
My daughter's just 7 years old, and every time I see her again, she's picked up things from somewhere which are just making it not easy for her to see straight.
Yes.
And so one has to say, where do you get this from and why? And is it true? All the time.
If we all agree, it's the common factor on all of us, how shall we help each other to be free of all this? That is the function of educator.
Surely we must want to be free of it, though.
And then, not only, no,
or,
no. See the dangers of it.
yes.
One is born in India with all the cultural, religious, climatic, nourishment, and so on and so on. And here you have the opposite. Marvelous climate, sometimes. Good food, sanitary, all that. But you, as a human being, and he as a human being, go through extraordinary miseries, wars, deprivations, tremendous sense of guilt, depression, all that. And if an educator, that's his function, say, look, let's work this out and don't let's be caught in all this.
But is it possible? I think that there's also a feeling that maybe, that in a certain sense, maybe it's not possible to be free of all this.
Then you are, no,
Why
then you are admitting something terrible. If you say it's not possible, then you are caught in this.
But if that's all I know, how could I possibly be free of that?
If you only know fear, don't you want to be free of it?
Yes, but how can I if it's all I know?
But aren't you aware that there is fear?
Yes.
So don't you want to be out of it?
Yes.
So does the student. He's afraid of exams, he's afraid of dozen things. Public opinion, you may not. But fear is common to us. He expresses one way and we express another way.
So now we are saying that we must help the student to be free of his fears, anxieties.
That's my responsibility. Our responsibility as a group of teachers.
Or we must understand the nature of fear itself.
Huh?
Or we must understand the nature of fear itself.
Yes, sir, that's what I mean.
So it's not just the student, but for both of us.
Because both are related.
Together.
We are
Yes.
both in the same boat.
Yes. So the student might help us as much as we help the student.
So that's what I want to get
It's an
at.
actual
Yes.
fact, it happens.
Yes.
That's what I want to get
My
at.
daughter helps me as much as I help her, as well as students here help me.
Yes.
Is this what education is? Or is it merely to help the student to become the average, mediocre, clever, cunning citizen, ambitious, greedy, envious, fighting each other, killing each other, the whole modern society?
But now we have to deal with all the pressures of society, because we want to understand what fear is, and we want to be free. Both the teacher and the educator wants to be free of all those things that will make life difficult. But there's the pressure of earning a livelihood, of exams, of this.
No, here the pressure of earning a livelihood is not for the time being.
Well,
Let's
but
take.
It's in abeyance, you see, because very early on the student, for instance, discovers that examinations are the means to a certificate, which is the means
So
to
can we find a method or a way of not having exams or treating exams as though it was nothing? A-level and O-level and the whole business of it.
But if I feel that the only way I can get a job is
No,
by having
but
that.
we might find out a way of not being afraid of exams. Or, you understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
Or during the whole term or couple of terms or whatever it is, watch the students and say it's good enough. You're all right. So as to remove the fear of these beastly exams. Watch him throughout the year, the student. Say, look, study a little more. You follow what I mean? Encourage him on all the rest of it, so that when the final horror comes, he says it's not a horror at all, he goes through. Can we do that?
One does that, but seemingly they at the last moment, so to speak, and the student may feel that it is nevertheless a horror. I mean, one has protected him from the horror in a sense, one has protected him from the horror, but the horror is still there. The horror is still waiting.
Who invented exams? The Chinese?
Possibly.
The Mandarins? I believe they were the original people who kind of invented this monstrous system.
But you obviously do need some exams.
Huh?
You obviously do need some exams at some stage, and people are going to build bridges or be doctors. It has to be clear to themselves and to everybody that they can do things.
But is it possible to help the student not to be afraid of exams?
If you've really had time to do the teaching properly, yes, you can, I think.
That's what I'm trying to get at.
I think it's just a fear. I'm not sure that it's just fear of exams, actually. I think it goes a lot deeper than that, really. It's not just a fear of examinations, it's a fear of the future and a fear of not being secure with having your exams.
So what does that mean? Fear of not being successful.
Yes, I think that's much stronger than any teaching you can do.
So we all worship the God of success.
It's much stronger. Yes.
So can we go into it? Can we go into with this student and say, look, what is this whole idea of success? Why has it become so important in life?
It seems also allied to something to do with self-fulfillment too, that part of fulfilling yourself.
All that's involved.
Yeah.
Like a boy I heard one the other day, he said, my ambition is to become Prime Minister. No, he really meant it, not here. I met somebody and the son was saying that, I'm going to devote my life to become the Prime Minister. Just, he follows. And probably he would.
What puts that kind of idea into people's heads?
Our whole culture is that. A man who is not successful is considered beneath, he's contempt. He's treated with contempt.
So now we are saying that we are putting ourselves against the whole of culture and society.
Against the whole current of this modern world. I'm for that anyhow.
We must be careful here because, we aren't just talking about revolution in the sense that it's known about in destroying the system, destroying society, getting rid of exams or whatever it is.
No, I'm not getting rid of exams. We are trying to help the student to understand the whole meaning of success, whether what is implied in it, and whether he's going to give all his life to this idea of becoming something in the world. Look, sir, it's not only in this physical, mundane world, but also spiritually. The ordinary priest is ambitious to become the bishop. And the bishop wants to become the archbishop, or the cardinal wants to become the pope. It's the same pattern.
And as the parents, just as much as the students, they may be saying, if you don't pass your exams, you can't stay on at Brockwood for another year.
That's right. So can we as educators go into this with the student and say, do we see the danger of it?
But this wanting to be is so deep-rooted.
I know, sir, that's our conditioning.
The educators have it themselves too.
Of
the
course,
educators themselves.
that's what I'm saying.
So surely we must start looking as well ourselves. We can't just point it out to the student.
No, can we have a dialogue about it with the students? In the course of dialogue, I'm freeing myself and helping the student to get free of this goddess. I don't know, I've watched it all over the world, this extraordinary phenomenon of success. Be somebody in the world.
Are we also suggesting that in our discussion we would uncover something which is of greater value?
Of course. Aren't you reversing, sir, the whole way of thinking about oneself? Now we think, I must be a businessman, I must be an executive when I grow up, I must, even if I fail, I must be a foreman in the factory, I must be the shop steward. You follow? The whole thing is this.
Is it that, or is it also confused because the person wants to be those things, he's ambitious, and yet he feels perhaps in the back of his mind that he would like to be free, he would like to be
simple,
less bothered, he would like to have a free life, but he's caught in this.
He would like it, but the fact is he's caught by the throat.
Well, has this dichotomy come about in culture itself?
That's what I'm saying. You're always comparing B to A, which begins the idea of success. So can we, as educators, discuss this or have a real serious dialogue and point it out to them what is involved in it?
I'm worried by when you say point it out to them, because I
point
feel
it out in the sense, I'm doing it, I'm pointing it out to myself.
Yes.
I'm not saying point it out to them.
Yes, it just wasn't quite, yes.
I'm in the course of the dialogue, I'm aware that I'm also pursuing the goddess.
And it seems to do that, it goes back to what we were saying earlier, which is Harsh was suggesting staying with, that the student and the teacher are psychologically at the same level.
Of course.
But if we both really realize that creates a certain atmosphere.
Yes,
it seems it's that atmosphere.
No, that creates a quality of, an intensity. Look, we are both in the same boat. And that gives us a strange sense of responsibility. It's not I row and you sit still. Yes. Or you row and I look at the heavens. We both are. Can we educate them that way? Is that possible?
We've said pointing out, but we've not really talked about how we actually work on
let's have a dialogue about it now.
Because it's all very well say we worship success, but what is it?
I'm your student.
Yes.
How will you deal with this, with me? How will you all, 5 of you, who are going to be my educators, teachers, how will you go into this question? And pointing out the consequences, the link, how will you show it to me?
We'd have to find out first what we mean by success and what it is that
it's
means.
very simple. To be somebody, financially, bigger car, bigger house, to be somebody. Money. If you can't have money, all that, you are somebody with an enormous sense of information, scholarly. Right? Being somebody implies, you know what it implies. Whether you're a doctor, whether you're a surgeon, whether you're a prime minister or just an ordinary clerk, he wants to be somebody.
Well, perhaps we have to find out what's behind the wanting to be somebody.
That's again, what do you think is behind it? No, you are teaching me, you are helping me to understand. We are in the same boat. Don't immediately wander off. We are in the same boat. Help me to understand this. What is behind it? Why has man, right through the world, made this goddess such an extraordinarily important?
It seems there's a desire within us.
Look at itself, go into it. I'm your student, don't just give words, throw out words. Why has man, right through history, say it's not just now, right through.
It seems in some sense to be connected with survival.
That's right, isn't it? Security.
Because he survived at the physical level, and then as society gets more sophisticated, more developed, he feels that he needs to survive at the psychological level also.
And also, each one wants to survive. He's only concerned with his survival. Obviously. So, I want to survive at any price. And my survival is laid out as success, money, position, all the rest of it. And, and yours is also in a different way, but both of us desire to be to survive individually, family, more the nearer family, and then the nation, and so on. So the tribal instinct is very strong in all of us.
And it's continually being reinforced by everything that you do, by how you're educated, how you're...
The British. And when you go to France, la France. I mean, of course.
And we also seem to make the assumption, since we need a physical security, I mean, we understand that, we also assume that similarly we're going to need a psychological security.
Yes,
we don't even question that at all.
We never question psychological security, which may affect our physical security.
Yes.
So,
you mean by that endanger our physical security?
Yes.
Or even if someone's worried, they don't work so well.
That's right.
They don't do what they need to do.
So can we, being on the same level at the same time, right? Can we convey all this to the students and to ourselves, not verbally, just words, but in depth?
In discussion, therefore.
Not just in discussion.
Not in discussion, not just in discussion, but in discussion, in action, in games, in everything you're doing. That seems to be implied in what is said there.
Yeah.
In a variety of ways.
It means I'm very keen to find out why I worship this goddess, which has so many facets, so many faces. Why? Is it security? Individual? Then the family and so on? Or is there much more to it? There's much more to it, surely, than mere physical survival as well as psychological survival. There's much more involved in it, much. Which is man nothing but this? You follow what I mean? Wanting the priest wanting to be bishop wanting to be pope, and so on. You follow? Is this all? That's what we made life into.
Generally, by implication, that is all.
That just it.
So far, Krishnaji, we have said nothing about a whole range of things, about beauty, about love, about affection.
I'm purposely avoiding it. Because as long as I'm worshipping this strange goddess, I can't have the other. Obviously, I can't love.
If I'm only concerned with myself,
So,
I can't love.
obviously. I can't see beauty if all the time I'm worshipping this goddess.
But still, I hang on to this
You
goddess.
see, sir, it's right through. You follow? The painter wants to be somebody. The musician always. You follow? It's right through. So we have, it's like a tremendous mountain which we have to climb, but it's not. If we see the truth of this, it becomes very simple. Yeah, yesterday morning we had a discussion with the students only. And we went into this question about, they wanted, whether this hall should be used for this. I said, cut down. It took 55 minutes to disentangle it. And I said, look, let's find out if you want a room where you can be quiet. They all agreed we must have a room where we can be quiet. They said, why not in the library? I said, somebody is reading. Before all the rest of it, they ultimately came to the point that we must have a room where we can all be quiet, or I want to come here and be quiet. Each one of them. They agreed. I said, from that principle, work it out. You follow, sir? Yeah. Not one began to say, no, we must have in this room whatever we like, jazz, this. I said, look, don't offer opinions. Let's. So we continue with this, don't we?
Yes.
I think we should.
Yes.